On a scale from 1 to 5, 6.
What's up? What it is? What it do? It's your boy Alan C. And the place to be. Good evening, y'all. First things first, let me shout out my Sideline Talk family. Tay, Herb, John, what it is? What it do? What's going on, big brothers? How y'all doing? And now let's shout out my LU Bugger family. Thank y'all for joining me again. I appreciate you guys. Not gonna keep you too long tonight. Happy Friday. But we had football yesterday. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals 23-20. What am I doing? So they held on to a dominant, somewhat NFC West thriller. By far, so far, this division has been the best division in football. And it just every time they play each other, it's a 1-point game, and it's just so tight and competitive across the board. So shout out to Sam Darnold. He played well. He had 242 yards and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker had 81 yards. Zach Charbonnet scored. And they were just able to do whatever they wanted to do until they couldn't. So they was up to a 20-6 lead, I believe it was. And then Kyler Murray came back with 2 touchdowns, made the score 20-20. And a very controversial rule that you will hear in a very near to distant future is that kick zone. The Cardinals kicked the ball, but it didn't go into the end zone. It landed before the actual kick zone and gave the Seahawks field position from the 40, and they kicked the game-winning field goal after a few, passes and completions. The defense for Seattle is not playing no games. They came into this game the second highest, giving up the second least amount of points, and they did not disappoint last night. They got 2 picks off of Kyler Murray and kept him uncomfortable and running and scrambling all night. One of those picks is going to be the wildest play you'll see this week if you haven't seen it yet. The Seahawks cornerback named Kobe Bryant, the cornerback Kobe Bryant picked off a pass for the Seahawks, and he got tackled by his own player and fumbled. Very weird. That pick actually gave the Cardinals 5 yards in the first down. By the time they got the ball back. But like I said, the Cardinals they steamed back in the game. It was almost one-sided. By the fourth quarter, it became a good game. Kyler Murray had 200 passing yards and 200 passing and 44 rushing with 2 TDs and 2 picks. Marvin Harrison Jr., man, shout out to him. He had 6 catches and 66 yards and a touchdown late. But shout out to Mike McDonald getting the boys ready to play, and the Seahawks are very, not surprising, but a very good 3-1 to start the first quarter of the season. And I believe 2 of those wins, if not all 3 of them, no, because they beat the Steelers. So 2 of those wins were in the division, and they got 1 division loss to the 49ers on a last-second field goal. So they're 2-1 in the division, and everybody in that division is either 500 or above at this point. And that's the only division that can say that. So shout out to NFC West. They playing some good football. All right. I normally save the Ravens for last and talk about them last, but I got to start here. I got to go here. I have to. This game right here is of uber importance. You see the guy over my shoulder right here, Lamar Jackson. Right here, Lamar Jackson. Right here, Lamar Jackson. Right there, Ravens. Got to play well. Have to. But both teams are coming into this game at a very surprising and disappointing 1-2. This game is supposed to be a battle of two 2-on-1 teams at the very least. And the fact that they're 1-2 coming into this game is very surprising. One of these teams, unless they tie, is going to leave 1-3. At that point, that 1-3 team, we are not going to say it's a good team. I don't want to hear it until week 8 when they play another quarter of football, because both of these teams got the same fate. They're either a good team doing a very good imitation of a bad team, or they're a bad team cosplaying as a good team. Let me break it down for you. On the Chiefs side, if the Chiefs were to lose, says I am picking the Ravens to win. If the Chiefs were to lose, they would start the season 1-3, right? Those 3 losses: Eagles, Chargers, Ravens. That 1 win, New York Giants. There's no way you can say that's a good team. No way around it. That offense has struggled. Pat Mahomes is struggling. It's barely keeping up with, the pace that he normally sets for himself. And he's leading the quarterbacks in rushing. When has Pat Mahomes ever led quarterbacks in rushing? That means he's not comfortable behind that line. So if they go to 1-3 on this season, we can't say that's a good team. That team has to worry. Not saying that they can't make the playoffs. Not saying that they can't make the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship, because we've seen them go in the playoffs and reel off 2 wins to get to the Super Bowl 2 years ago when they went on the road and beat the Bills, and then went on the road and beat the Ravens. So they can definitely beat the two of the top teams in the league on the road. They've done it before. So I'm not going to say that they can't do it. It's just going to be a high as hell to climb, because presumably the Chargers are going to 4-0 because they are playing the Giants, I believe, this week. So presumably they're going to 4-0. Now let's flip that around for the Ravens. If the Ravens were to lose this game, they would be 1-3. And that 1 win came against Cleveland Browns. Not too much of a slouch, because the Packers did did lose to them. But it's a slouch because it's the Browns, and that offense is atrocious. So that 1 win would have been against the Browns, and those 3 losses: Bills that you had, Lions, you got dominated, and then the Chiefs, who aren't playing well. So you cannot lose this game if you're Baltimore. That defense has not played well. The defense looks lost at times, and the offense looks amazing. That's normally opposite here in Baltimore. So we're kind of really, really excited about the offense, but really, really scared about the defense. It's a weird feeling to have. And then the offensive line, I'm not sold on. Not to be negative, but the offensive line gave up 7 sacks on a Monday night. And that's the starting offensive line. I know we talked a lot about the run game, giving up 200-something yards on the ground. And that was to the Lions and their formidable offensive line. That's probably the best in football, if not the Eagles. But everybody was there and accounted for and present, and didn't have any injury designations, didn't have any hints of injury, and got thoroughly blown off the ball on offense. You know the snap count. How are you getting blown off the ball? But they did, and got dominated on Monday night. So both of these teams going on 1-3 is going to be very desperate measures, and they gotta show and prove. That's for both teams. I'm not counting the Chiefs out, nor would I be counting the Ravens out. I'm just not gonna call them a good team for the rest of the second quarter. What I mean by second quarter is I break the season down 4 games apiece. So until week 8, depending on what they do from week 5 to week 9 for the Ravens, because they have a bye week 7. I'm not gonna say they're a good team. Just not gonna be possible if they lose this game. So let's just not lose it. Let's just go ahead, go out there and win it. Do what y'all supposed to do. Key on. And y'all know the 2 F words that I keep saying: focus and finish. And go ahead and get that dub. All right. College football tomorrow, man. This is going to be an exciting college football week. Damn, this football week is amazing. The week 1 matchups for college football was really good, but we didn't know how good it was going to be because it was the first week. These teams have played, 3-4 games by now at week 5. So we pretty much know who these teams are. So you got starting at 3:30, you got LSU and one of the best defenses. Defense is not even giving up 10 points yet. Or I'm sorry, not giving up 10 points a game. And they're going against Ole Miss, who puts up 40 points a game. So you got strength on strength there at 3:30. LSU, number 4, 13 Ole Miss playing against each other. And then you go, I'm sorry, at the first game up is number 21 USC versus number 23 Illinois. Again, offense versus defense for both of those teams. USC's good offense. Illinois is a good defense. We'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, that LSU Ole Miss game is going to be amazing. And then right after that, you got Penn State versus Oregon. Now, there's going to be scouts at that game galore because there's so much NFL talent on the field. At least 30 teams in the NFL are sending scouts to that game because that's going to be one of the best college games. And, the future stars of the NFL are playing in that game. We got Drew Aller for Penn State. He's been leading the way, passing the ball. They scored the 14th most points and give up the 3rd fewest points. Dante Moore for the Ducks has 962 passing yards and 11 touchdowns this year. Decorian Moore has been uncoverable, got 207 yards this year. The Ducks put up the 7th most points in the nation and holds their opponents to the 10th least amount of points. So that game right there is going to get the main box. But at the same time, at 7:30, you got Georgia versus Alabama, and they've been the 2 best teams in the best conference of the SEC. Even though these games aren't quote unquote make and break like they were the BCS era, where if you lose one game, you pretty much out. These games are going to be hella important as far as seeding as we get later into the year. And it's just, the good and bad of having a college football playoffs is the good is they're not eliminated. We're going to see these teams probably play each other again in the playoffs, if you will. But the bad is it's not as uber important as it was during the BCS era, where if you lose one game and you out. So teams and kids were playing the absolute hardest to make sure that did not happen. Again, these teams are competitive. Some of the best football is going to be played here all year for college. It's going to be played in this week. So I definitely going to be in front of the TV all Saturday watching these games. All right. The 1:00 game, I started with the 4:25 game of the Ravens and the Eagles. I'm sorry, Ravens and Chiefs. But the Eagles and Tampa Bay is the 1:00 game. 1:00 kickoff. 2 3-0 teams. Baker Mayfield has played well, but he's led all 3 games with come from behind game-winning drives. All 3 games. No, they were against the Jets, the Falcons, the Texans, who are combined 1-8. But that ain't none of their business. They're the combined 1-8 record going against a 3-0 team. Mike Evans is going to be out for this game, so I look forward to Philly taking advantage completely of Emeka Ibuka, and the Eagles are. I'm sorry, the Bucks are without Sion Viaka in the middle. They down some linemen. So I definitely expect Philly to dominate this game at 1:00. But the Chiefs, Lord have mercy. The Buccaneers were the last team to beat the Eagles, with Jalen Hurts playing the full game. And if we remember last year, they lost to the Buccaneers before the bye to make them 2-2. And then they ruled off an amazing run, Super Bowl, the whole nine. So, yeah, on an 18-game winning streak when Jalen Hurts starts. So they're trying to get this up to 19. I believe the record is somewhere in the 20s. So they're approaching the record. So Jalen Hurts has struggled against Todd Bowles and his defense. So, and that offense hasn't looked amazing, except for the second half against the Rams when they were down. So hopefully they come out with that same offensive game plan that they had at the half of the 26-7 drubbing that they were getting by the Rams, and when they came back. So hopefully they got that same fire and going to lead this team this week with offense and dominate. I'm picking the Eagles on that one, and let's go ahead and get into these predictions for week. We're on 4, yeah. Let's see. How many good games? Okay. Let's start with the first game on Sunday. The Steelers versus the Vikings in Dublin, Ireland. This is the dub game. And I'm putting Minnesota on top. They're both 2-1. I'm going to give Minnesota the edge because of defense against that Pittsburgh offense. I think Minnesota is going to dominate at the point of attack. And Pittsburgh's not going to be able to do much. 2-1 Washington Commanders versus 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons got to bounce back. There's no Scary McLaurin. There's no Jaden Daniels. It's Marcus Mariota going up against his former Falcon team. I'm going to go Commanders on this one. But I would not be surprised. I'm going to put that on upset alert. I would not be surprised if Atlanta actually did make that win. Like I said, Eagles. I pick Eagles to win over Buccaneers. Buffalo versus New Orleans. Come on now. Josh Allen hasn't had a dominant MVP type of game since the fourth quarter against the Ravens. I think he goes back to MVP Josh Allen on this game, though. Detroit versus Cleveland. I think it's going to be a sneakily good game. Detroit offensive line got to do something to slow down Myles Garrett. But I think Cleveland has like a top 5 defense, if I'm not mistaken. So if they can make Jared Goff get off his spot, they can make that game interesting. I just don't see how Cleveland can score enough to beat Detroit. So I'm giving the edge to Detroit. The battle of 2 0-3 teams in the AFC South, which I did not have Houston being this bad, especially on offense. I thought C.J. Stroud would be able to shake off that sophomore slump. They fired Bobby Slowick last season towards the end so that he have some time with this new coach, and they just have not hit it off yet. But I got Houston getting a win on this one. They better get this one. I'm talking about the Ravens can't come from behind, or the Chiefs can't go down 1-3. Houston cannot go down 0-4 with the Colts having a 3-0 start. So hopefully Houston gets their first win this week. 1-2 Carolina, 1-2 Patriots. Carolina scored the most points last week that they done scored in a minute. New England gave the game away against the Steelers. Which one do I have faith in? Which one was a blip? Which one is a design? I'm going to go with New England. I think New England pulls this game out. The Chargers versus the Giants. Again, Chargers go to 4-0. They're playing the Ricky Jackson start. The Jackson Dart, Lord. Jackson Dart gets his first start in New York. So I'm going with the Chargers on that one. Colts versus Rams. I don't think the Colts have played the team as good as the Rams yet. I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to be able to keep up. So for those reasons, I'm going with the Rams. Jacksonville versus San Francisco. I think San Francisco is being hurt. Jacksonville can make this a game. That's an upset pick, and I'm going to go with Jacksonville in this game. I've already said I got Ravens over the Chiefs. Chicago at 1-2. The Raiders at 1-2. I believe the Bears always start fast, and that is going to be too much for Geno and the Raiders to overcome in the end. I'm going with Chicago on that game. Slightly. The Raiders going to make a valiant effort to come back, but I'm going with Chicago in that game. And then Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football, we got Green Bay versus Dallas. Micah going back to Dallas. 2-1 Green Bay just lost to the Browns. 1-2 Cowboys just lost to the Bears. I'm definitely going Green Bay on this one. Again, I don't see how this game is close. And Micah's just going to, pay his friend Dak a visit a couple of times. And then we got 2 Monday Night Football games. Jets versus Dolphins is the first one at 7:15. I'm going with the Jets. I don't think the Dolphins can stop anybody. So that's my reason for going with the Jets. And this just went all why? And then the Bengals and Broncos were the last game of the week. Bengals 2-1, Broncos 1-2. I believe Broncos are going to be able to get to Jake Browning, force him to throw some turnovers, which he's been doing. Get back to 2-0. I'm going to go with the Broncos on this one. And that is my show, ladies and gentlemen. Go to the Substack, go to the YouTube, go to the IG. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. Like I said, follow Al U Bugging on Instagram at Al_U_Bugging. At YouTube, YouTube is Al U Bugging. Substack is alubugging.substack.com. Be blessed, be productive, be more. Love you. I'm out.